Have you ever had a friend tell you they're depressed, and your first instinct was to say, "Yeah, I get sad sometimes too." You meant it as support. You wanted them to know they're not alone. But later, you wondered if that was the right thing to say. After all, sadness and depression sound similar, but deep down, you know they're not quite the same. Maybe you've been on the other side of that moment, trying to explain what you're feeling, only to have someone compare it to a passing mood. It can leave you feeling misunderstood, maybe even questioning yourself. Am I overreacting? Is this just normal sadness? The truth is, many people blur the lines between the two. And it's not because they don't care, it's because we don't talk about the differences enough. Sadness is something we all experience from time to time, a natural part of being human. But depression is something deeper, heavier, and far more persistent. Understanding that difference isn't just helpful, it's essential. Because when you know the signs, you can respond with real compassion. You can support the people you care about in a way that actually helps. And if you recognize those signs in yourself, you can take steps toward feeling better without guilt or confusion. In this video, we're going to break down the differences between sadness and depression, not with cold definitions, but in a way that's relatable, real, and easy to understand. You'll hear examples, learn simple ways to tell them apart, and discover why this knowledge can make a huge difference in your life and in the lives of those around you. So let's start with the first and most important distinction. Sadness is an emotion, but depression is an illness.
Why we get it wrong. A lot of us have been there. Someone opens up about feeling depressed and we want to comfort them. We say something like, "Yeah, I get sad too sometimes," or "I know exactly how you feel." It's not coming from a bad place. It's an attempt to connect, to show empathy. But here's the thing. While sadness and depression share a surface similarity, they are not the same. And when we blur that line, even unintentionally, we risk making someone feel unheard or invalidated. It's not that we're cold or careless, it's that many of us were never taught the difference. Think about it. Growing up, when you felt down, what did people around you say? Probably things like, "Cheer up," or "Don't be sad." We're taught that feeling low is temporary, and you just have to shake it off. That's true for sadness, but depression doesn't work that way. Yet because the word depressed is often thrown around casually, like, "I'm so depressed that my favorite show got canceled," the meaning gets watered down. This makes it harder to recognize when someone is dealing with something far more serious than a passing mood. Imagine this. Your friend tells you their leg hurts. If you assume it's just a bruise when it's actually a fracture, your advice, "Walk it off," isn't just unhelpful, it could make things worse. It's the same with emotional pain. If you assume depression is just sadness, you might suggest solutions that simply don't apply. Another reason we get it wrong is because depression can be invisible in a way sadness isn't. When someone is sad, there's usually a visible reason. You can connect the dots. They broke up with someone, they lost a job, they failed a class. But depression doesn't always come with a clear why. That's confusing for both the person experiencing it and the people around them. If you've never felt depression, it can be hard to imagine what it's like to feel empty, tired, or hopeless for weeks or months without knowing the cause. Sometimes, people with depression even question themselves. Why am I like this? I have no reason to feel this way. That self-doubt is often reinforced when others minimize it. And here's the deeper truth. Misunderstanding the difference doesn't just hurt the person going through it, it also limits our ability to be real allies. If we can't tell the difference, we can't offer the right kind of support. And when people feel like no one understands, they're less likely to open up again. This is why awareness matters. If you're in your 20s or 30s, chances are high that someone in your life, maybe even you, is struggling with depression right now. Statistically, 1 in 4 people worldwide will experience it at some point. That's not a rare, distant issue. That's your circle of friends, your coworkers, your family. The good news is you can respond in ways that actually help, instead of unintentionally shutting someone down. That might mean listening without jumping to compare, or asking gentle questions like, "Do you feel like this all the time, or just today?" It's not about becoming a therapist. It's about being present in a way that makes someone feel seen. The first step to getting it right is letting go of the idea that all low moods are the same. Sadness is a normal, healthy emotion that comes and goes. Depression is a sustained state, that seeps into every corner of life. They require different responses, different expectations, and different kinds of care. And when we recognize that, we give ourselves the power to be better friends, partners, and even better to ourselves. Because sometimes the person we misunderstand the most is ourselves. So if you've been feeling low for a while and keep telling yourself it's just sadness, maybe it's time to look closer. The difference matters, because knowing it could be the first step toward real help and real healing. Now that we've talked about why so many of us get it wrong, let's break down the first key distinction. Sadness is an emotion, but depression is an illness.
Sadness is an emotion. Depression is an illness. Sadness is part of being human. It's that wave of heaviness you feel when something matters to you, when you lose something, when plans fall through, when life hands you a moment of disappointment. It comes in, it lingers for a while, and then it fades. Even though sadness can be intense, it's temporary. It's your heart's way of processing change or loss, and once the cause is addressed, or enough time passes, you find yourself laughing again, feeling lighter, moving forward. Depression is different. It's not just an emotional response, it's a condition that affects the mind and body on a deeper, more sustained level. You can think of sadness as weather. It rains, you feel damp and uncomfortable, but eventually the clouds part. Depression, on the other hand, is more like a climate. It settles in and changes the entire environment you live in, affecting every day, regardless of what's happening in the moment. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that because sadness and depression can look similar on the outside, tears, low mood, withdrawal, they must be the same on the inside. But the internal experience is vastly different. Imagine this. You fail a class, and you feel sad. You replay the test in your mind, you might cry, maybe you talk to a friend about it, but over the next week, you pick yourself up and move on. Now imagine feeling that same heaviness for weeks or months. But you didn't fail a class. Nothing specific happened. And no matter what you do, watching your favorite show, meeting up with friends, you can't shake it. That's the difference between sadness and depression. Sadness is connected to a specific cause. Depression doesn't need one. It can appear even when everything in your life seems fine on paper. That's why depression can be so disorienting for the person experiencing it and confusing for the people around them. Another important distinction is that sadness doesn't usually disrupt your basic functioning for long. You might skip a social event or have a day when you don't feel like doing much, but soon you're back to your routines. Depression often makes even the smallest daily tasks, showering, cooking, answering messages, feel like climbing a mountain. It's not about willpower, it's about energy systems in the brain being affected. And while sadness can be eased with comforting activities, depression often resists these quick fixes. You can't cheer up someone out of depression any more than you can tell someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. Recognizing this matters because it changes how we respond to ourselves and to others. If it's sadness, empathy and distraction might help. If it's depression, patience, understanding, and often professional help are needed. Neither is better or worse in a moral sense. They're just different experiences that require different kinds of care. When you know which one you're facing, you can stop blaming yourself for not snapping out of it, and instead, focus on the right steps toward feeling better. And that awareness is the foundation for everything else we'll talk about. Because the next key difference is about time. How long these feelings last, and what that tells us about what we're dealing with. Short-term versus long-term impact. Sadness is like a visitor. It shows up, sometimes uninvited, but it doesn't move in. It might stay for a few hours or a couple of days, depending on the reason behind it. Maybe you had a fight with a friend, missed an opportunity you cared about, or got disappointing news. The sadness is real and valid, but as the situation changes or you process your feelings, it naturally begins to fade. You find yourself laughing at a joke, enjoying a meal, or feeling a small spark of motivation again. Life slowly returns to its usual rhythm. Depression is different. It doesn't just visit, it takes up residence. It can linger for weeks, months, or even years if left untreated. It's not tied to a single event that you can fix or move past. Instead, it's a persistent state that reshapes how you see yourself, your relationships, and your future. And the longer it's there, the more it affects every area of your life. Imagine two people who both lose their jobs. The first feels sad, maybe stressed, but within a couple of weeks, they're making plans, reaching out to contacts, and slowly regaining optimism. The second person feels not just sad, but empty. Weeks turn into months, and the idea of job hunting feels overwhelming. They stop socializing, their sleep schedule changes, and even on days when something good happens, they can't feel much joy. This is the difference between short-term sadness and long-term depression. The way it continues to weigh you down long after the initial cause, if there was one, is gone. One of the challenges is that we often underestimate the danger of long-term low mood. We tell ourselves, it's just a phase, or I'll feel better when things calm down. And sometimes that's true. But when the heaviness doesn't lift, or when it keeps returning, it's a sign something deeper is going on. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It can make it harder to recover. Sadness might make you cancel a night out with friends once or twice. Depression can make you withdraw for so long that your social connections start to fade, which only deepens the isolation. Sadness might cause you to lose focus for an afternoon. Depression can impact your work or school performance to the point where it affects your future opportunities. And while sadness might disrupt your sleep for a night or two, depression can alter your sleeping and eating patterns for months, affecting your physical health. Understanding the time factor is crucial because it changes the response. If it's short-term sadness, rest, support from loved ones, and time might be enough. But if it's long-term depression, professional help is often necessary, not because you're weak, but because it's a condition that benefits from treatment. Recognizing that distinction can save you months or even years of silent struggle. Your sign to pause and ask, has this become more than sadness? Because when feelings stop being temporary, they stop being just feelings. And that leads us to the next important difference: how clear or unclear the cause might be. The vague weight of depression. When you feel sad, there's usually a clear why. You can point to the breakup, the argument, the missed opportunity. Even if it catches you off guard, you can often trace sadness back to a cause. It's like having a puzzle where all the pieces fit. You see the picture and you know what triggered your mood. Depression, on the other hand, often feels like carrying a weight without knowing where it came from. You wake up and it's there, this heaviness in your chest, this fog in your mind, and you can't explain it. Nothing bad happened. Life might even look fine from the outside. But inside, it feels like you're walking through water, every step slow and exhausting. This lack of a clear cause is part of what makes depression so frustrating. People around you might ask, "What's wrong?" and you don't have an answer. That can lead to guilt, thinking, "I shouldn't feel this way. I have no reason to." And when others can't see an obvious trigger, they might downplay it, saying things like, "You just need to focus on the positive," or "Be grateful for what you have." Those words might be well-intentioned, but they can make you feel even more alone, as if you have to justify your pain. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack, but when you open it, there's nothing inside you can point to. No rock, no brick, just weight. You can't show it to anyone, so they might not believe it's real, but you feel it every single day. Depression can sometimes be triggered by a specific event, loss, trauma, major life change. But in many cases, it develops gradually, with no clear starting point. It can be influenced by brain chemistry, genetics, past experiences, or chronic stress. And because there's no obvious external cause, it can linger unnoticed for a long time, even by the person experiencing it. This vagueness can also make it harder to seek help. With sadness, you might feel justified saying, "I'm upset because this happened." With depression, you might think, "I can't go to therapy unless something specific is wrong." But the truth is, you don't need a dramatic reason to deserve support. Your feelings are valid simply because you're feeling them. Recognizing the vague nature of depression helps us shift our approach. Instead of looking for a single fix for one cause, we focus on overall well-being, small daily habits, consistent self-care, and sometimes professional guidance. It's not about finding the one missing puzzle piece. It's about lightening the weight, even if we can't name exactly what put it there. And once we understand that depression doesn't need a reason to exist, we can stop trying to earn our right to get help. we can simply say, I'm struggling, and that's enough reason. This brings us to the next key: how sadness touches mood, depression changes life. Sadness usually affects how you feel in the moment, but it doesn't take over the entire structure of your life. You might feel down for a few hours or a couple of days, and during that time, your mood dips. You're quieter, maybe less energetic, but parts of you still show up. You can still enjoy a funny video, still taste the sweetness of your favorite dessert, still smile when someone shares good news. Sadness touches your mood like a passing cloud casts a shadow. It's noticeable, but the sun is still there, peeking through. Depression, however, is more like a season that settles in and reshapes everything. It doesn't just influence how you feel, it changes how you live. You might stop doing the things you once loved, not because you don't have time, but because they no longer feel worth doing. That favorite hobby you used to lose hours in, it now feels pointless. A dinner out with friends? More like a mountain you don't have the energy to climb. Over time, depression can erode the structure of your daily life. Work or school performance might slip because it's hard to concentrate or even show up. Relationships can strain when you withdraw or feel disconnected from the people you care about. Even basic routines, showering, cooking, cleaning, can start to feel overwhelming. It's not that you don't want to do them, it's that depression has drained the fuel you need to function. This is where the difference becomes life-changing. Sadness may make you skip one workout. Depression can lead to months without exercise, which then affects your physical health, which in turn deepens the depression. Sadness might make you lose your appetite for a day. Depression can change your eating habits entirely, overeating for comfort or barely eating at all. These long-term shifts can create a feedback loop, where the effects of depression reinforce its grip. One woman I spoke to described it like this: with sadness, I still felt like me. I was just having a hard day. With depression, I didn't recognize myself anymore. My world got smaller, my days all blurred together, and joy felt like a language I forgot how to speak. That's why it's important not to dismiss depression as just feeling sad for a long time. It's not only about mood, it's about how the illness can reach into every corner of your life, changing not just how you feel, but how you function and how you connect to the world. The hopeful part is that once you recognize the difference, you can begin to take steps, small ones at first, to rebuild that connection to life. But to do that, you have to see depression for what it is, not just how it feels. And that brings us to one of the most important steps: learning how to recognize the early signs before they take root. Common missteps when helping someone. When someone we care about opens up about feeling low, our first instinct is often to make them feel better right away. We want to fix it, to say the magic words that will make the pain go away. But in that rush to help, we can sometimes make missteps, small mistakes that, even with good intentions, can leave the other person feeling unheard or misunderstood. One common misstep is comparing their experience to your own. You might say, I get sad too sometimes, thinking it will make them feel less alone. But to someone dealing with depression, that can feel like you're minimizing what they're going through. Sadness and depression aren't the same, and even though both are valid emotions, comparing them can unintentionally blur the lines and make it harder for them to feel safe opening up again. Another misstep is jumping straight to solutions. You should just go for a run. Or, try meditating, it helped me. While these suggestions might work for sadness or stress, they can feel overwhelming or even impossible when someone is struggling with depression. It's not that these actions are bad, it's the timing and delivery matter. When a person is deeply drained, they often need understanding before they can take action. There's also the tendency to offer toxic positivity, saying things like, just think positive, or others have it worse. The intention here is to shift their perspective, but instead, it can make them feel guilty for having emotions in the first place. It sends the message that they should snap out of it, which oversimplifies a very complex mental health condition. Sometimes, the misstep is silence, not because you don't care, but because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing. The problem is, silence can be interpreted as disinterest or lack of support. Even a simple, I'm here for you, even if I don't know the right words, can make a big difference. And then there's the pressure to cheer them up through distractions. Movies, outings, jokes, these can be helpful in some cases, but if done without acknowledging their pain, it can feel like you're trying to avoid the conversation rather than stand beside them in it. The truth is, supporting someone with depression isn't about perfect words or instant fixes. It's about presence. It's listening without judgment, validating their feelings, and reminding them they're not a burden. Instead of saying, "I know how you feel," try, "I can't imagine exactly what you're going through, but I want to understand." Instead of "just think positive," try, "It's okay to feel what you're feeling. I'm here with you." These shifts in language can turn a misstep into a meaningful connection. Helping someone through depression is rarely about doing everything right. It's about showing up, consistently and with compassion. And when we learn to avoid these common missteps, we open the door to deeper trust and real support. From here, the next step is learning how to take care of yourself while supporting someone else, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Building your awareness and compassion toolkit. Understanding the difference between sadness and depression is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you take that knowledge and turn it into a set of skills, a toolkit you can use to respond with empathy, clarity, and care. Awareness and compassion aren't just feelings, they're practices you can strengthen over time. One tool is active listening. This means listening with the intent to understand, not just to respond. When someone opens up, resist the urge to fill the silence or steer the conversation toward your own experiences. Instead, focus fully on them. Make eye contact, nod, and use small acknowledgments like, "That sounds really hard," or "I hear you." It might feel small, but for someone in pain, it can be a lifeline. Another important tool is emotional literacy, being able to recognize and name emotions in yourself and others. This helps you avoid lumping all difficult feelings into one vague bad mood category. If you can identify whether someone is feeling hopeless, anxious, drained, or disconnected, you can respond more appropriately. A simple way to build this skill is to practice naming your own emotions throughout the day. It might sound strange, but saying, "I feel tense because of this deadline," trains your brain to connect feelings with causes. Empathy is the heart of your toolkit. But empathy without boundaries can lead to burnout. That's why setting limits is just as important as being available. This might mean saying, "I can talk for a bit now, but I also need to rest tonight," or encouraging them to reach out to a therapist when the situation is beyond what you can help with. Boundaries don't mean you care less. They mean you care sustainably. Education is another powerful tool. Read articles, watch credible videos, or attend workshops on mental health. The more you understand about how depression works, both scientifically and emotionally, the less likely you are to fall into common myths or stigmas. And when you speak from a place of informed compassion, your support carries more weight. Lastly, include self-regulation techniques in your toolkit. When you're calm, you create a safe space for others. This could be as simple as taking a deep breath before responding, doing a quick body scan to release tension, or pausing to collect your thoughts before offering advice. These small habits help you stay grounded even in emotionally charged moments. Building your awareness and compassion toolkit doesn't happen overnight. It's built through intentional choices, listening more deeply, learning continuously, setting healthy boundaries, and showing up with genuine presence. When you have these tools ready, you're not just reacting in the moment, you're responding in a way that can truly make a difference. And as you strengthen these skills, you'll find they not only help others, they also change how you relate to yourself. Because the more compassionate you are outwardly, the more naturally you extend that same grace inward. And that leads us to the final piece of this journey, learning to carry that compassion into how you treat yourself when life feels heavy. From understanding to action. Awareness is powerful, but it's only the starting line. Knowing the difference between sadness and depression and learning how to respond with compassion is valuable. But the real change happens when you put that knowledge into motion. Action doesn't have to be dramatic. It's often made of small, deliberate steps you take consistently, even when they feel almost too simple to matter. Maybe it starts with reaching out to a friend you've been worried about, not with advice, but with an open-ended question like, "How have you been feeling lately?" Maybe it's checking in on yourself more regularly, asking, "Am I feeling low because of something specific? Or is this something deeper I need to address?" Action also means being proactive about resources. If you notice signs of depression in someone you care about or in yourself, have a list ready. Crisis lines, local therapists, online support groups. Offering, "I can help you look for someone to talk to," can be far more supportive than a generic, "Let me know if you need anything." Another important piece of action is practicing consistency. One kind conversation is great. Regular check-ins build trust. Depression often convinces people that they're a burden. So when you show up again and again, you send the message, "You matter and I'm here." But taking action also means protecting your own well-being. If you burn out, you can't offer genuine support. Build your own mental health habits, whether it's journaling, walking, or setting limits on when you can be available. By taking care of yourself, you model healthy boundaries, which can actually encourage others to do the same. And don't underestimate the power of community action. Talking openly about mental health at work, in your family, or among friends chips away at stigma. Sharing your own story at your comfort level can create space for others to share theirs. Every time you normalize the conversation, you make it easier for someone else to seek help. The bridge between understanding and action is choice. You can choose to let what you've learned stay in your head, or you can use it to make tangible differences in your life and the lives of those around you. Not every effort will lead to an immediate change, but over time, these small, steady actions add up. They create a culture of care, one where people feel safe to speak up and seek support. Understanding is the light. Action is how you carry it into the dark places, yours and others. And every time you take a step toward connection, you're helping to turn that light into something that lasts. We've walked through the differences between sadness and depression, explored how they show up in our lives, and talked about ways to respond, with compassion for others and for ourselves. But remember, you don't have to have all the answers to make a difference. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply show up, listen, and let someone know they're not alone in the dark. If today's conversation stirred something in you, whether it's recognizing your own experiences or thinking of someone you care about, don't let that awareness fade. Reach out. Start the conversation. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. You never know the impact a small act of connection can have. And if you're the one carrying the weight right now, I want you to hear this clearly. You matter. Your feelings are valid. Help is real, and you are worth reaching for it. If you found value here, hit like, subscribe, and join this community where we keep talking about the things that matter, but are too often left unspoken. Together, we can make understanding and empathy the norm, not the exception. Until next time, take care of your mind, be gentle with your heart, and remember, you're not here just to get through life, you're here to live it.